Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast. I'm, of course, Nick McDaniel, and as always, I am joined by my buddy Myron.
Ooh. Howdy, folks. Lots of wrestling the last week, lots of wrestling in the coming week. I'm all excited. How about you, Nick?
Yeah, man, it's the last 2 weeks has been a turning point, to say the least, for one promotion. Look, AEW's in a weird place, man. And I'm not saying necessarily it's all bad, because I know a lot of people want to think it is. I'm not saying that it is, but we're going to get into that a little bit as we go along. But before we do that, we, of course, always want to remind you, make sure you're subscribing. Our favorite place is YouTube. Look, we get it. We're a podcast, and we're on all podcast platforms. But the video home is, of course, on YouTube.com. You can search Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast, Tapped Out Podcast Network. Find us there. Make sure you're liking the page, subscribing to the page, turning notifications on. Hell, you can even become a member, man. Get the show early. We record on Wednesdays, and I drop it immediately when we're done. Because the first thing I do is get it uploaded to our YouTube members. And, of course, on the Patreon page as well. It's over there. But you also get a lot of articles and cool stuff written. That's just there on youtube.com, and search Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast, or at Tapped Out Pods, our handle. That's the easiest way to find us over on YouTube for sure, man.
Yes, and you get to see how pretty I am on video, not on the podcast form.
That's correct. That is correct. Well, man, obviously the big news, look, we recorded and, last week, and we had a discussion about everything that went down at All In. But Saturday, when Collision started, the official statements were all dropped. One, Phil Brooks, CM Punk, has been terminated with cause. And I'm going to address some of that here in a little bit. And by the way, cool. Heath shared a audio this morning that I actually caught before we recorded. And there's a lot of that I agree 100%. And I was saying this a couple days ago. But we're going to dive a little bit into that. So the question is now, Punk's gone. So we're not going to go backwards as much. We're going to go like CM Punk's terminated. What does that mean for AEW going forward? I mean, there is no Punk.
It means some asshole fans are going to chant that during shows.
Will they, though? No, and I don't mean that, because they did a little, but they didn't so much at the Collision. Because it happened. Collision was in Chicago. Like, there were some, but not much. It wasn't nearly, because we had to live with that shit for years. With
7
WWE.
years of WWE, yeah. Man, I don't even know what to tell you, Nick. And then the thing is, I watched that whole pay-per-view, sitting there. What's going to happen? Is this a work? Is he coming back? Is this some secret thing? Is he in the crowd? Are they going to pop him out? What's Tony going to? And it was just a wrestling show. And there really wasn't any Phil Brooks in his hometown.
Yeah. And we're going to, by the way, if you're wanting a little conversation about All Out, that's coming up next. But we wanted to talk about this first, because clearly this is the biggest news in a long time.
Well, it overshadowed completely everything they did at All Out. It overshadowed everything they did at All In. 9,000 people over there at Wembley, overshadowed. The big show in Chicago, overshadowed. Because of him.
But haven't we honestly, and here's the thing, by the way, I'm trying to decide, should I do this tangent now or wait?
Tangent.
I'll do my tangent. So we complain about, how it overshadowed everything, which it did, by the way. But there's a part of me that kind of blames us. And when I mean us, I mean wrestling fans. The ones who just pick through the internet and try to find all the dirt and stuff like that. Kind of aren't we to blame a little bit? Because if we didn't really, I'm sure some of this stuff happened back in the day, and everybody was like, oh, it was handled behind closed doors and nobody ever heard anything about it. Well, it also was because there wasn't, the internet wasn't there, for one. So there wasn't as many dirt sheet readers, and there wasn't as many people like the drama-filled Twitter where everybody was spewing out their, whatever they believed and whatever they thought with no proof or, anything like that. So I wonder, oh, when we make all these excuses, I'm like, kind of aren't we to blame a little bit?
Somebody's got to look at it. It's like they wouldn't make porn if nobody looked at it.
Correct.
Okay.
That is true. Now the flip part of that is, we were talking about the, how it overshadowed everything and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. There's a part of me that just thinks like, is it time for because look, they let him go. That's where we are. Punk's gone. Is this, I'm always trying to be positive about something. Is this the clean slate for AEW? Because Bully said it best, and Mark Henry said it best on Busted Open. They both were like, hey, problem's fixed, y'all. CM Punk's the problem. He's gone. So now everything should be unicorn and rainbows, right? Because y'all solved all the problems by firing CM Punk. So now, what's the excuse? If shit's messy backstage, what's the excuse? There isn't one. That's the problem. So now it'll come back to, and does that open Pandora's box, by the way, if it turns out that shit's still not straight and everything goes sideways, It's
Pandora's shit box, and I'm going to tell you, in my opinion, what it comes down to. It's going to come down to the fact that Tony Khan loves wrestling as a wrestling fan, and it's hard to separate being a wrestling fan and a wrestling promoter in order to make money. We ran a wrestling show. We got a little too far into the fan part. We started out as a booker and a promoter, and then we started doing what we wanted to see. Now, we made money, but could we have made more money? Probably. But we tended to book things we wanted to see, and we tended to book people we liked. And I think Tony is booking people he likes to see, stuff he wants to see. And he's buddies with them, and he's friends with them, and some of them are executive vice presidents, and he can't really be the bully backstage. And everybody's like, well, he needs the Undertaker, or he needs this, or he needs that. And maybe
by the
way,
here's the difference. A lot of people have said that, and I was one of those people. And sometimes, though, as I think about it, a lot of people want to knock Tony Khan, and I actually commend him for actually doing what he did. I'm not saying I agree with it, by the way, but to step up and say it was my decision, I'm firing CM Punk based on everything that went down. And by the way, we joked about it, right? Like, this is the thing I was talking about that Heath and I agreed upon. That statement was written by HR and legal 100%. You could tell by the way the wording was done.
Oh, yeah.
I was fearful for my life. You can't, because, that was the just cause for them terminating him. And my argument was, you can't prove he didn't feel that way. You see what I'm saying? Because if you say we fired him because he did this, and then that turns out not to be 100% accurate, or there was a reason why that was done, then there's a problem. But if Tony says, I feared for my safety in my life, you cannot prove that he did not feel that way, and that's why he fired him, was because he felt like it was an unsafe working environment. So
hey, I got to give him that. I got to give him that.
Hold on. I got a part 2 to this. You know why? I think what I'm so proud of it is I think Tony Khan needs to be the leader. Like, he, as the owner, or, everything of this company, be the leader. Part 2 of this, if it were me, I'd fire Jack Perry tomorrow.
Why Jack Perry? How do you know that wasn't a work? How do you know Jack Perry wasn't? Jack Perry's an original. Jack Perry's been there since
I'd
day
fire
one.
Jack Perry for one reason.
Why?
This is the whole, like, went back and forth about this was not all CM Punk's fault. Listen, and everybody knows I think he's overrated. I don't think he's as great as everybody. I think he's good. I think he's got a lot of... Because let me ask you this, Myron. As much as I can sit there and crap on him, he did make an impact in the beginning. He was a merch mover. All those type of things.
Oh, yeah.
Do I think he helped them grow their business? In areas, maybe, but I don't think it was the value was dollar for dollar. But whatever. Doesn't matter, that part. But The events that went down was Tony Khan not being clear on CM Punk's role. Because here's the thing. In private, was Tony Khan telling, and we talked about this a little bit last week, was Tony Khan telling CM Punk he was a leader on Collision, it was his show, blah, blah, blah. And because when that meeting happens, it's clearly Punk telling people, don't do this on Collision, we don't do this, and we don't do that. Part one of that blame is Tony Khan's. If, and this is the only if, by the way, that I can't, because there's, if Punk was supposed to be, if Punk was told he was a leader, because here's where the split happens. If that was done and the wrestlers in the back were told that was the case, that he was the locker room leader, Jack Perry was being a smart-ass punk and made that comment on TV, in front of all of those people, and he was the shit stir. If it was not told to all of the wrestlers, then it's Tony Khan's fault that CM Punk was acting like a leader and wasn't, put in that in front of, he was told that maybe, but not given that role in front of the wrestler, so they didn't know. Because then if Jack Perry walked through that curtain and CM Punk jumped at him, who the hell are you? You're just another talent. I get it, he's a veteran, but who are you to tell me that? But if he was a locker room leader, I think he did have. Now, Punk's part of the fault there was it should have never gotten physical. Not in today's environment. I agree with the whole, in the back in the day in the locker room, the Taker would have fucked him up, whatever. That's not today's culture, and you can't get away with that.
Even in any job field, shit I used to do when I first started in my job would not go today. Stuff that broke me, I'm not saying broke me into the business. Jesus fucking Christ, I've been hanging around this wrestling stuff too long. I was a retail pharmacist, for Christ's sake. Things that broke me into the business wouldn't fly today. I don't think any business would be that way. Any kind of job field, things 25 years ago wouldn't fly today. So we can't look at it like that. We can't look at anything today with the Undertaker would have done this and the Undertaker would have done that. The Undertaker wouldn't do that today.
Right.
Okay. We can't look at things like that. It's a modern era in any business. So we're turning into our granddad.
Yeah. But the part of why I'm saying he should fire Jack Perry also is it sets the precedent that it's not like, hey, we're going to fire this guy because he did X, but it's okay to do this. Just fire. I'm not saying you'd never bring Jack Perry back. Just slap everybody and say, look, you're all spanked. You're fired. Go out on the indies, grow up a little bit, and maybe we'll bring you back down the road. But that gives him showing there's a zero tolerance for this bullshit. But what's
the deal with fired and not released? Is that a different terminology?
Well, Jack Perry's only suspended. He has not been
No, but in WWE they get released. They don't get fired.
It's the same thing.
It's a much nicer term.
It's just tomato, yeah.
But you might come back later. It's a lot easier to bring back somebody you released than somebody you fired.
Well, I think he was terminated with cause is the words we're going with. But like my point, I would just make this clean slate fight. We start, you can sit everybody down, boom, off to the races. And the reason I say that, by the way, is because when I said they're in a vulnerable place, dude, all in, spectacular numbers. Go check out Wrestle Tickets. Go check out some other people. Their house show attendance is actually in decline year over year, or last event they were there in general across the board. That's not a good thing. I think you got to because you don't want to get caught up in the minutia of all of the negative. You got to push a lot of the positive. And look, Bryan Danielson returned at All Out. We've been told, hey, he's the new Collision guy. God help him, because look, 326,000 people watched Collision last week, the first week of college football, and they really were only up against LSU, Florida State, right?
And Payback.
Well, Payback ran as well, so there's that. And then now we're looking at big games. They're going to be on the regular this week. We talked about it. Alabama and Texas start at 7. 326 might be the new norm or 320 to 375 might be the norm for Collision. And look, by the way, we've joked about it. Let's see what the DVR numbers, the +7s are. I think the +7s are going to be a massive, or +5s, whatever, are going to be a massive thing we got to keep an eye on for Collision, because you're not going to record Texas, Alabama and watch Collision instead.
No, you can't watch football on DVR.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I watch wrestling on DVR all the time. I actually think outside of wrestling I'm at physically, I'd rather watch wrestling on DVR to get through the commercials. And I've got a rant about that somewhere in this program. I watched all in out through the outdoor. She wore a raspberry. What the hell was the name of that last show? All Out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it got boring during certain time periods because some of the stuff I didn't care about watching. So that's why I watch on DVR typically, so I can fast forward through the shit I don't want to see. And that keeps my wrestling attention span longer because I don't waste it on stuff I don't want to see.
All right.
And also I don't get frustrated or angry because I don't watch the stuff I don't want to see. I think a lot of people ought to do that. That way they don't shit on something. Like if you see a match you really don't care about, just don't watch it. Okay? If you see something that you think ought to be developmental and you don't care, or don't force yourself to watch it. You'll thank yourself later on. But so I watched it live. I got bored. I tried.
Hold on. We're gonna do a whole All Out section. Let me rein you in here because you're getting way too far ahead. Let's finish up on the Punk thing about his future first, because All Out's our whole next segment. So I wanted to ask you about things people would want to watch. Of course, immediately. By the way, I made a joke post about it was a picture with Punk in front of a Raw and a Smackdown logo, and was like too soon because everybody's already talking about it. So I put in a group text that I'm in with some guys that are really, in the know and have some, stuff with wrestling, and was going back and forth, and I was like, hey man, what do you guys think about, like, not, are they, should they, like, you know what I mean? Like, do I think they're going to bring Punk in WWE? I don't think they probably will. I would suggest not. But I said, here's the question though. Would you, if you were them? That was the question that I put out there. And I was surprised, by the way, that most of them were like, yeah, I would.
That's the Marcus Supremus group, right?
No, man, these are people in the know, man. This is people that I'm like, no, man, they would know. And then it's like, because here's, by the way, this is also, by the way, people in the know that like have led me to believe. Like, my thing with the whole Punk thing has been, and it has not wavered since last week. A lot of people are Punk's history. He could be a problem, but in this problem that we're currently facing, and if you need to tell me that Punk was fired for all of these situations, not for this one, because I think I've just pointed out a second ago how a multitude of bad decisions led to that incident happening. Well, it's not all on Punk.
I'm going to look at this like my dad, Nick. My dad was married 4 times. Okay? The first marriage, I give you, because we've both been married once.
Mm-hmm.
Second marriage, we're on our second marriages. We're doing okay. Third marriage, if your third marriage fails, you might ought to do some introspection. But if you have to go to 4 marriages, there's an above average chance it's you.
But not all of them.
But Punk's getting damn near towards his 4th marriage, is he not?
But still, that's my point. You're proving my point, and that doesn't mean he didn't marry some crazy bitch that he shouldn't have been married to because she was crazy. That one might have not been his fault. The other 3 could have all been his fault, but this one wasn't, and that's where I'm at.
That's why I said I give him 1 or 2.
Listen, I don't think Punk coming back to WWE. Punk to WWE though, that's not a question of, like, he's not going to try to be a problem there because he knows it won't be tolerated there. So if he comes in, I am fully aware everything. Now, I wouldn't bring him in unless I had on paper Like, this is what we're doing you for 6 months to a year, and this is what you're going to do, and you're going to sign it. You're going to be done. This is your contract. By the way, you want me to tell you a little secret that I know? There's another talent in WWE right now that has that in his contract. He has his creative marked out, and the only person that can change it is if they ask him to change it. He can change it himself. He can agree to that.
That's smart. That's
So
smart.
put it on paper, Punk. This is what we look. He apparently, word on the street was he wanted to come back last year at the Rumble and work a match with Kevin Owens at SummerSlam or at WrestleMania last year when all the trouble with with AEW was going on. So do it now. If you're going to do it, look, I think there is money to be made, and I think it would draw a lot of eyes. They would get attention to it, but long term, I wouldn't do it, and I personally would not do it. I think the risk is outweighing the reward. Because they're already growing at a rate that I don't think they need him to continue to grow.
I think 25 years ago, Vince would have done that. Vince would have brought somebody back to make money off of them. Vince brought people back to make money off of them, regardless of what it cost was, regardless of what the problems he had with somebody was. Hunter's not going to do that. Nick Khan is definitely not the person to bring somebody back who's a problem just to make some money. No, they don't need him.
No.
They don't.
Listen, no. I'm not saying that's the part I disagree with. I think Hunter would be more likely to bring him back. No, I think Nick Khan would be more likely to bring him back because if he sees the dollar value in it, he doesn't give a shit about the personal. He's all business, no personal. But by the way, no, Nick Khan wasn't there when all that shit happened the last go around, I don't believe. So there is no personal. Triple H, and on the other hand, yes, he's got some baggage there, but I think he's a lot like he understands if we can get the money out of it and it's worth it. Hey, you don't think they want to sell like 1 million WWE Punk shirts?
Nick Khan is a balance sheet guy, pluses and minuses, and Punk's nothing against the guy. His minuses outweigh his pluses as far as bringing him in.
I think you're reading too much of the dirt sheets, and I think WWE could control that, and they would have him under control, and I think it would be because listen, he's got to be a good boy because it's the last place he can really go, right?
I think he should go to NWA, do a run.
What?
Yes.
No.
That's the best place.
They're
for
way
him.
too small. It's never going to happen.
Best place for him.
I disagree. Look at your note sheet. There's the best place for him to go. Impact Wrestling.
Impact Wrestling.
Yeah, that's the best place for him to go. Because they put out a post, Myra, I don't know if you saw that. They'd be happy to have him in Impact Wrestling. And I'm like, well, no shit, you'd love to have him in Impact Wrestling. I mean, of course they would. By the way, I don't think it's a terrible fit. They're a big enough company. They could afford to pay him if they chose to. And it might help. Look, I think if any place he could make an impact, no pun intended, on their numbers, that's the place. That's the place I think the risk is worth the reward for him as Impact Wrestling.
Well, if he's such a purist, why doesn't he want to wear the NWA title belt along with all those notable holders like Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes,
EC3, Tyrus? Yeah, exactly.
I can give EC3 I can give him a break.
Yeah, no, I agree, but that's just what I think. I think Impact would be a good place for him to land if he's not going anywhere else. Listen, but I love Jeff Jarrett's concept. Conrad and him brought it up. Why not just run his own show at like WrestleMania weekend? It'd be the largest indie show running at WrestleMania weekend. He could put on, because a lot of guys love him.
He wouldn't have any trouble finding talent. I mean, he could pretty much get anybody. Yeah, it would be. And he should be able to draw enough controversy. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
Real quick, I do want to move on. We got to get rolling. All Out, briefly, you brought it up earlier. I know you thought I thought it was a great pure wrestling show.
I'm a sports entertainment fan, okay? And I looked at it. It was $62 with fees. Okay? How much do I pay for Peacock now, Nick?
$5.99 a month.
No, I pay for the full package, so $12.
Oh, so probably $11.99 or something like that.
Okay. Yeah. I could have got 5 months of Peacock, including all the other amenities for Peacock, for that much. I got Payback as part of that. I thought Payback was great. There were parts of All Out, I really I can't keep that shit straight. I'm sorry, people. I have epilepsy, but I'm going to use that for every excuse from now on. But I enjoyed parts of it. I actually enjoyed the Kenny Omega match. Imagine that Takashka guy. How do you say? I'm never going to get that
Hey,
right.
let me ask you something. I'm going to ask you a keynote here.
What's that?
Look, we all know what we both think of his style of wrestling. It's not for us. But did you know that EVP that we all like to shit on for being an EVP in Playground Wrestling, he hasn't won a match on 6 straight pay-per-views, I think. Sounds like a guy really pushing to get himself over, doesn't it?
Yeah, good point. And Paige wasn't even on this pay-per-view, was he?
He won the Battle Royal. The charity Battle Royal thing. He won it.
Was that on the pre-show?
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy, what a slot! I don't like.
No, he won it. Hey, look, slide all they don't want. That he won $50,000 and they donated it to the Chicago school system. How cool was that? I thought that was cool, but you know.
Okay, well, okay, that is cool. That's cool. And they also got an entertainment match out of it. The 8-man tag is too many bodies for me. CM Punk, not CM Punk. What the fuck? MJF.
Do you like Survivor Series? The old school Survivor Series matches?
They were slobber knocker type matches, not all. I mean, I have trouble with the Bucks because there's that one Buck that looks like he's sick. You know, like the other Buck really got, eat and did well, and he got sick and never caught back up. Like he caught like scarlet fever or something as a child and got, missed a bunch of nutrition. I just didn't care for it. I'm sorry. And it might have been if you're calling me out saying it should have been a Survivor Series match, you might have got me in hypocrisy. Okay. I'm a hypocrite. I'm a total wrestling hypocrite. I'm not going to admit it. I'll admit it. What the hell? I'm a mark for sports entertainment. MJF though, that guy is gold. Comes down to the ring, just pure. He drinks out of the fans' beers. He's amazing. He's the biggest asset they have, in my opinion.
100%.
He's bigger than anything they have. And if he goes free agent, he should be able to write his own.
I'll tell you right now, I don't think it happens. I've said this. I'll say this till I'm blue in the face. There's no way Tony Khan lets him go. I don't care if he becomes the highest paid wrestler they have.
He should be the highest paid wrestler they have. He's the best thing they've got.
I don't know about all that now. There's a guy named Bryan Danielson that I would probably argue, and I say that because of what he's giving him behind the scenes now.
Holy shit. Did you see that strap match, Nick? Oh, my God.
I know you don't watch the scrums. Kudos to Bryan Danielson. I'm gonna slip up forever, by the way.
Okay.
For him to go out there and say he did come back early, his arm still not 100%, the one he broke, remember, in the match a while back. Did you notice he didn't strike at all with that arm in that entire match?
He's
and
professional.
No, here's professional. He says Ricky Starks carried him in that match.
Wow.
He gave all the credit to Ricky Starks for carrying him while he was.
Though.
And but it's the media scrum. It's a totally different thing.
I don't even know what a scrum is. I've never watched a scrum.
I was like, kudos. They brought up, by the way, he's clearly going to be moving to Collision. That's kind of one of the whole conversations that we talked about.
Smartest thing you could possibly do.
No. Here, I got to fill you in because I know you don't watch the scrums. Do you know why it was so cool?
Scrum? Gordon Soley was never on a scrum.
He gives the credit. The most important thing to him right now is his wife and his kids, and it's a whole lot easier for him to take his kids to school and do all that kind of stuff if he only has to go to work on Saturdays and Sundays when they do pay-per-views. So I think we're going to see him a lot. How about this? Give Bryan Danielson the book. Let him run Collision for you.
He's got plenty of experience. He knows how they do it in the big leagues.
I know you probably haven't caught Bischoff 83 weeks this week. He actually said he hopes he wasn't speaking out of term, or he said he shouldn't probably have said this, but he said that at one point Vince McMahon, when Bryan was out, with the concussion and whatever, they wouldn't clear him, that Vince actually was discussing bringing him back to be creative. That's how much he had, how much confidence he had in Bryan's like just creative process and what he could bring to the table, that he actually was thinking about hiring him back, not as a wrestler, but as somebody on the creative team.
I don't doubt it.
So he's like, look, if Vince has been around long enough to know, that means Vince had conversations with him about creative enough to have that much faith in him. Give him the keys to the Collision Castle and let him run with it and see what happens. Because then Tony can focus just on, or the creative team on Dynamite. By the way, they are killing the two brands, so that's a whole other thing. So
soft brand split, whatever.
It's not. I think they're going to just do away with it altogether. So we'll see, but time will tell. But All Out, look, I thought, like you said, I thought it was a good pay-per-view. I did.
I thought the Orange Cassidy guy, he really came out of that bullshit gimmick. This is all my opinion, people. I thought he looked good. I thought he did his best possible. He defined himself. Moxley, I don't know what is wrong with that guy. I don't know why he has to bleed every single time he gets in the ring. He didn't bleed, really. It was Orange Cassidy, and he kept biting on the head like he was some kind of off-white Abdullah the Butcher.
That's just his thing. That he likes that style. I mean,
okay, that was the difference. To me, that was the difference in Payback and All Out. In Payback, you had blood where blood was needed, or blood when it was accidental, not just bleeding for the hell of bleeding and then gnawing on people's heads. It doesn't appeal to me.
Well,
okay.
Well, that's all. We're going to wrap up the All Out talk because we are going to talk about Payback. But before we talk about Payback, we're creeping up, man. We're already into we're into September, man. Who would have thunk it, right? Yeah. And at the end of this month, we got a big thing down in Augusta, Georgia, right there. And guess what it is, Myron?
What?
It's CanaCon. Hey, Augusta, have you heard the big news? September 30th, CanaCon is coming right there to 90 Millage Road, right there in Augusta. That's right. That's the American Legion, Post 63, right down the road. 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. That's part of the big chunk of the festivities. Don't forget, however, at 6 p.m. to 8 p.m., live concert will be by Radio Cult right there in the building as well. What's going on this year? Great stuff, including for the first time ever in Georgia. Do you remember the crazy movie back when we were kids, Maximum Overdrive? The Green Goblin head that was there, right there on the 18-wheeler, will be for the first time ever. It will be there. Yes, the original prop from the movie will be right there at CanaCon. Also, look, CanaCon is really famous for its cosplay championship, and for the first time ever, they're going to take it to a whole nother level. Not only will second and third place get trophies, first place will be crowned with the CanaCon Cosplay Championship belt. That's right, championship belt for for the big winner. But hey, look, don't worry about it. Look, the kids are also they're not going to be left out. They got a cosplay specifically for the kids, and they will have a champion as well. And for the first time ever, there will be a Fans Choice Award, like a Fans Choice Prize. So you, the fans, will actually determine one of the winners as well. Special guests are Radio Cult, Kelly Graham, Randall Bishop, Specs Thomas, and many, many more. All of that's going down right there at CanaCon, September 30th, 90 Millage Road, Augusta, Georgia. That's right there at the American Legion. You definitely don't want to miss out. CanaCon 2023 is coming to Augusta, Georgia. That's right, man. Check it out. CanaCon right there in Augusta. Byron's on the phone. He's getting something taking care of business.
Meltzer, quit calling me. You need to wait and watch the show just like everybody else. Oh, God. Okay.
I hate it.
He won't leave me alone, Nick.
Yeah. He's got to get his scoop from somewhere, man.
Oh, yeah.
Well, let's talk about it, man. Payback. Look, I honestly completely expected total filler PLE. Like, I didn't expect much of anything to happen, and there was one thing I was stunned by, and another thing that I was super impressed by.
Yes.
Becky and Trish in the cage. Holy shit! I didn't see that coming.
I didn't know Trish had it in her. Okay, this whole thing was Sure, Trish, come on out, do your blah, blah, blah. I didn't expect Trish to have her head slammed into that cage till the fact she was bruised up. I didn't expect Trish to hang off that cage backwards. I didn't expect Trish to come out of that match with all those bruises. Holy shit, Trish. Much respect. Wow.
Yeah.
She's like our age.
I honestly thought it was going to be nostalgia, kind of halfway through matches and that kind of thing. And boy, I was just wrong. I'm the first to admit it. Anytime I even go through phases, and it's funny, I go through phases with Becky Lynch where I'm like, I think she's really, really, really good, great even. And then she goes through a period where I'm like, man, was I wrong?
She stales out.
She does.
Yeah.
And then she fires it and does something like that. And you're like, I'm all in again. Let's go.
Yeah. It's hard for her and Seth both to be prime at the same time. And right now they're both prime.
Yeah.
My opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
So
the other thing that stunned me, I just don't know why. I just didn't see the Judgment Day capturing the tag titles coming. It caught me completely off guard. I should have seen it, but I didn't.
That was a beautiful match. Finn stomping on terrible towels in Pittsburgh. That's old school heat. I love that. I love throwing them into the penalty box, coming back with Penguins jerseys on. Oh, come on. Okay. And hockey sticks in a hockey town. Kevin got color. It wasn't intentional. You saw it for effect. They dried it up, so it wasn't horrible. Then Swanton off onto this. Pam, violent, but not too bad. He had a Terry Funk shirt underneath his regular shirt. I fell for this whole thing, hook, line, and sinker. I really enjoyed this. And the Rhea Spear, they made a Kodak moment for anyone our age. I know if you're not 50 years old, you don't understand what that means.
Right.
But it was a Kodak moment, that spear. I mean, that's been all over the internet since then. Could not beat that. Could not beat that.
It was really good, man. I was really, really surprised.
How about Ripley in her match? She gets a bloody nose and turns around and blows snot blood onto the ring rope, on the ring mat. Okay. And then you see Aja Pereira. I still call her Aja Pereira because she wrestled here in Atlanta. She reaches down into her pockets and puts her little black rubber gloves on so she doesn't have to get blood on her. But that was blood that was caused in a match. Wasn't blading. Her nose was busted open, and Rhea handled it like a fucking, I hate to keep saying like a man because I know she's
like a champ. That's what I
like
was
a
like
champ.
To say.
Okay, that's the word I need to say. She's a badass.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at her and Raquel, they're out there fighting. They're big female athletes that are not like butch. They're both just defining a new time period for women's wrestling. Jesus Christ. That's just impressive. So I'm enjoying it.
And like I said, overall, from top to bottom, I know the other big thing obviously is Jey.
Jey coming
Jey
back.
Uso is
see, we got a big difference of opinion on this.
Mm-hmm.
And
he was traded.
I say he quit, and he was talked into coming back, and him and Cody are going to get together, and this is how Cody gets back to get to Roman. He's going to be Jay's partner, and they're going to go at the bloodline together.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think Jey breaks off, and Jey has a chance to go off and be a singles wrestler and have his thing, and I hope that's where we get for a little while. And I hope now the big key to the all is the trade happens, and for a name value of somebody like a Jey Uso, you got to trade Cody Rhodes over to SmackDown. Because listen, Myron, here's how you get there, and this is why I can't. This is why I say that. We're in September. Now I know people don't want to hear that WrestleMania is not that far away, right?
Well, you got to start your storyline if you want to do it right.
So you got to start because we kept saying, how does Cody get to Roman? Like, how does that even happen? Okay, if he's on Raw, the only way he gets back to Roman is he's got to win the Rumble again. right?
Let me look at my calendar here. Yeah, yeah, I'm listening. I'm trying to map it out.
Well, I'm going to map out something for you.
Okay, I'm listening. I'm listening to you.
John Cena announced that he's going to be basically at SmackDown for the next 7 weeks or so.
You can't get no better than John Cena, folks.
Does that mean he's going to end sometime? Hopefully, maybe. Does he make it to Survivor Series?
If not, he's going to get pretty damn close because they've got October 7th, if I'm not mistaken, is Fastlane.
Here's, that's if my math is wrong, he doesn't have to be on SmackDown the week before. It doesn't matter. Let's get John Cena to SmackDown, to Survivor Series. Cody moves over to SmackDown. Cody's got to prove to himself one thing. He's the best. Who do you beat to get to be the best? You got to beat Roman, but along the path, you always joked about like Brock was the big bad. He was the big boss he had to beat. Well,
you beat Brock 2 out of 3.
Then you face John Cena at Survivor Series.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Look, nobody says it has to be like this evil feud with each other. It could just be a
battle like I have
for
to
respect.
Show you. I have to show.
Correct.
I have to show to myself that I can beat you, John. I have to prove to myself.
If you're telling a story for a long period of time and you want to make Cody Rhodes the man, you beat Brock Lesnar, you beat John Cena, and then at WrestleMania, you take the title off of Roman Reigns. I think that's a hell of a way to set up somebody to be. You want to talk about passing the torch? He got passed the torch by Brock Lesnar, John Cena, and then Roman Reigns. That's a hell of a way to get there, in my opinion.
God, if Triple H was still wrestling. But, I mean, John Cena is the Ric Flair without the Ric Flair. He's the guy with the gold. He's the guy that's won all the belts. But he's the perfect company example. More Make-A-Wishes than anyone on the face of this earth times 5, right? He's done more for goodwill for the WWE than anybody else. He's the perfect example. He does, and when you want to put over LA Knight, put him in there with the Miz and John Cena. That's magic to get you over. So if you want to really get over Cody Rhodes, put him up against John Cena, and John will do the job. John's Mr. Company Man.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I like it. I think it's a great option. And it's something to fill that time for the next 2 months, but it's also an elevation tool. Get him there. And then after Survivor Series, you're off to the races chasing Roman till Mania. Because you got to get him on the brand. That was my whole take. That's why you got to do it. You got to get him on the brand. So, look, again, not a ton of WWE this week. But, man, let's hit because we got a lot of indie talk this week. But, of course, before we get into the indie talk, our favorite segment of the week, the Pro Wrestling Tees Shirt of the Week. Listen, it's going to be a little bit of a bending, but don't break the rules. Bryce Cannon, the frat daddy himself from, look, we've done Exotic Youth. We get it. I picked the shirt for Bryce because I thought we were going to see him this weekend. And then I'm like, oh, shit, we're not going to see him this weekend. Because I thought he was going to be at the Southern Honor Show. But look, check out Bryce Cannon, the frat daddy. I've run into a couple occasions. I think the kid's got a great future. And so check him out over on ProWrestlingTees.com. He's got a couple shirts on there. Pick up multiple ones of them. And while you're there, check out, maybe grab one of ours as well.
Yes, definitely.
But look, man, we were talking about it. This is going to be one of the most loaded weekends in a long time. Wow. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, by the way. I want to throw a Sunday one in there. Let's start with Friday. Let's try to keep it in order.
Let's not forget what happened last Saturday.
Well, go ahead.
Southern Fried. Man, I had so much fun at the Southern Fried show. Got to see Drew Blood and his partner David Reigns come back. The Fabulous Finishers versus Todd. Sunny Day couldn't make it, so we got Todd and Sal Renaro coming back. The goodwill Sal and Todd have, they made so much goodwill with the young fans there. I'm sure those fans will love wrestling for life. Okay. And Drew Blood was the guy that really made me fall in love with independent wrestling. Okay. It's just amazing. It was a great show, just a phenomenally good show. But the two of them coming back made my night, probably made my whole week. Never seen David Reigns before. He predated my time following indie wrestling in Georgia. In this area, I know he's still active in other parts of the state. But man, at Southern Fried, God, Drew was back. He's such a good heel.
Listen,
I
though,
kept what?
you use a lot of goodwill and stuff, but I do want to throw in there, man. There was a scary moment there in that card where fan got injured, basically stopped the show for a good, 15, 20 minutes?
Yeah, and I haven't seen Larry's
stretcher.
report on the whole thing yet. I've been looking for it, so I don't know how that's going to turn out. I don't even know if we should say anything about that. And I really want to see the finishers and the grapplers work a program. Two of my favorite tag teams. So Southern Fried, kill it as always. I love going out there. And the big news about Southern Fried's owner too coming up. But this Friday night, where we're going, Nick?
Southern Honor up in Canton at the Action Building. Look, it's the big show that's setting up still here. Their anniversary show is the next one. So look, you don't want to miss it because it's clearly going to be setting the table for what's going to go down at that show. The main event, 6-man, David Ali, Gunnar Miller, Corey Hollis versus Todd Sexton, Nick Kalen, and Judas. That right there alone is worth the price of admission. Because we know David Ali is heading to still here to wrestle for the Southern Honor title, Judas, Michael Judas. But so this is going to set the table. But there's a whole lot of other stuff on this show that you can't miss. Look, Exotic Youth's going to challenge the Hierarchy. Cruel's going to get his hands on Adam Priest because of everything that went down at the Rumble Jack. Chip Day will defend the Legacy title against Owen Knight.
That's going to be
look, Kenway versus Kyle Matthews. That'll be just a technical match from hell. Cyrus is going to be in the house. Danny Jordan's in action against, so it's a loaded card you don't want to miss. And we saw a video leak out this week of Sunny Days attacking Nathan Mowry. Not real sure we're going to find out more about that.
Yes.
Hopefully Nathan heals up. I mean, are we heading towards a match?
Is Nathan going to be taking pictures, or is Nathan going to be in the ring? Because he's not just a cameraman; he's a killbilly. Okay, yeah. He's been waking all over the Southeast. And actually, I think he's made it farther than the Southeast, working these death match shows. And like I said, that's not my cup of tea, but he's killing it.
He's making doing a name for himself in it. Oh, yeah, 100%. So,
oh yeah.
But like I said, setting up still here the anniversary show. There's going to be so many moving parts and so many things you do not want to miss. So you absolutely, if you're in Georgia wrestling, Friday night, Canton, Georgia, at the Action Building, you do not want to miss that one because that one will be loaded from top to bottom. Saturday, the state's going to be kind of split. It feels like right down the middle, maybe. Down in Augusta, IWE's got a big show running. Look, they've got a hell of a women's match set up. It's a 4-way. They've got tags galore. Look, I saw the poster and it's like Hierarchy, the All-Star Special, Exotic Youth, and like tons of tag teams. Look, I get it. Everybody's like, "Oh, Cruel's facing Lucky Ali," and no disrespect to Lucky Ali. Cruel is the freaking world champion for IWTV. He's just the next victim as far as I'm concerned, because Cruel is just going to demolish everybody moving forward.
Yeah, that's the true story.
Yeah, so hell of a show. Check them out down in Augusta. That's on Saturday night down at the American Legion in Augusta. Then on the north side of the state, right back in the Action Building the next night.
Yeah, I'm going back to Canton. Ooh, I can't wait.
Hardcore Hell 25th anniversary. And we were looking at it, and I could not believe the news. Who's going to be there now?
Nick freaking Aldis, former NWA World Champ Nick Aldis. Can I say Nick Aldis?
Mm-hmm.
You don't get much bigger than that, Nick.
No.
Versus Judas.
By the way, he grew on me for a long time. I wasn't a massive fan, but the more I watched him, I was like, oh my God.
In the suit, carrying the belt.
Mm-hmm. And look, as former NWA World Champion versus the man that I argued it's been a month ago maybe at this point, when I argued the man that deserves to be at least given a shot for that same NWA title, and that would be, Judas, Michael Judas, because I think he would be a great NWA World Champion, and I guess we're going to find out, right? Where he stands when he faces off with Nick Aldis. By the way, that's not the only NWA presence.
Oh no,
Kenzie Paige Henry's coming in. Yeah, is going to be defended against Crystal Rose in that building that night.
I don't like her chances. I don't like her chances walking out against Crystal Rose as the NWA World Champion.
Of course, hey, look, I'd make the argument we didn't probably like her chances against Camille either, when she was challenging for that title.
Yeah, Camille is a top of the line badass. I followed her through her entire career, but Crystal Rose has always scared me with the lips of the violence she's prone to go to. So, whew.
I agree, man. Super grudge match: Todd Sexton, Sal Rinauro. Like I say, grudge match, but when I think of those two, I'm just thinking they're going to go in there and it's going to be just this excellent technical match and things like that. So time will tell. Super talented guys. Now, match I'm excited for personally. Nick Halen. Who'd you pay to see? Best wrestler here, best wrestler in Georgia against Jeter. Like, what are you thinking?
That's going to be amazing.
Yeah, I want to see that because that wrestling someone like Jeter and I don't mean the physical stature of Jeter. I mean literally the stature of Jeter in wrestling. Like, if he can beat him, that's another stepping stone that he can take and another notch in his belt to his claim of being best wrestler and so on and so on. But I want to see that match because the monster of Jeter and then the skill and the talent of one Nick Halen. One right there, it's got my attention.
Jeter's one of those guys that's so big. I think a lot of people underestimate his skill because they can't get over how big the guy is. He's a great wrestler and he moves like a lot smaller guy. Mm-hmm. So that's going to be interesting to see. There's so many matches getting announced all the time. They haven't announced everything yet. That card is developing every day, and the talents they're popping. This is Wednesday. They're still announcing matches, and this is not like they're still trying to finalize matches. These are surprises. Surprises.
Two of your favorite teams, the Grapplers, are going to face the Undeniable. That'll just be, oh God, that will be so entertaining. And the entertaining is an understatement.
Yes.
And then Chip and Narcissism are going to go one-on-one. That's just going to be super fast. You're not going to be able to get up out of your seat and don't blink because you're not going to see, it's going to be so quick and so action. So that's, again, and like I said, there's Azrael's gauntlet match. And there's all kinds of talent already in there. I saw Billy Buck, Jacob Ashworth, Azrael. Who am I missing?
Mason.
Scott Mason. Yeah.
The Warden.
So lots of people being added as we go along, man. So
we might have to take stools. Might have to take bar stools so we don't have to sit or stand. We can kind of lean to make things easier on us.
Yeah, I can't wait, man. It's again Saturday, Canton, Georgia, in the Action Building. Hardcore Hell. Follow Anarchy over on Facebook and check out how to get your tickets. Make sure you get them ahead of time for sure, because that one's it's going to be off to the races. But
how about this, Nick? How about Faye Voiles get some kind of Faye? I don't know if I'm saying your last name right. I'm stuck on that sometimes. How about she gets an award for some kind of valuable person in Georgia wrestling, handling all the ticket sales for Southern Honor and now handling Anarchy's 25th anniversary ticket sales? I don't think she gets enough appreciation. So shout out, Faye. More power to you. We love what you do.
Yeah, she's the best. She's a sweetheart.
Yeah.
Then on Sunday, real quick, UWF running there in Colbert. I have been told it's a show you don't want to miss. And I was like, oh.
they've had a lot of stars pop up there. They had Suicide up there the other day. So Caleb Conley was up there the other day. So I think they're doing a little good stuff up there, and they're training a lot of young talent, which to me is very important for the state of Georgia and the Southeast to be training talent. We're seeing a lot of people developing. All this good wrestling going on, and we're seeing a lot of great talent being developed just around here in South Tennessee in that area. So
yeah. Well, look,
totally
Nick, I always joke. Everybody says, "Why do you look?" UWF Nick Halen's on top, and if they say he's there, who'd you pay to see, right?
Yep.
There you go. There's your answer. By the way,
Amen.
Curtis Coleman, one half of the tag team champions. I mean, they're getting
Curtis
there.
is a hell of a guy. Yeah, he's going to be on
yeah.
Anarchy too. I can't wait to see him.
Yeah, 100% for sure. Look, that's what I've got on our calendar for the weekend, and that's a lot. That's a lot to have on our calendar. Where will we be? I don't know that we'll make them to all of them. I don't know if that's even possible.
We need Vaseline to fit any more shows in this weekend.
It's crazy, man. But look, it's kind of like us in time. So if we get any, it's just, I don't know where else to go, man. But anything else you wanted to discuss before we get into the usual stuff before we wrap up?
No, man, I'm so excited right now. I cannot wait.
Well, I tell you, you know what, Myron? If you don't like to wait, one thing you want to do is make sure you're subscribing over on YouTube or our Patreon, youtube.com @TappedOutPod is the handle. Of course, by the way, Patreon @TappedOutPod. That's our handle there as well.
Oh yeah.
Because then you wouldn't have to wait. You'd get the show early. Like here we are, we're recording, and I'm trying to wrap up right here before we get to lunchtime on Wednesday.
Yep.
And I drop it as soon as we're done. But look, we're fully aware that some people are still podcast listeners. Whether it's on Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Google Podcast, Spotify, wherever, we're on any platform, at every platform it seems. So make sure you're subscribing for there. That way you don't miss an episode, because every week on Thursday they're just dropping. And sometimes, listen, your boy's got a secret. People don't realize that sometimes I'll go in, if I'm up at 8:30, I like to be sneaky, and I'll just tell it to go ahead and drop early.
Yeah, get it a day before Meltzer. Seriously.
Yeah, so he'll quit calling Myron, that's for sure.
Yep.
So, well, man, look, lots of Punk stuff, lots of All Out, lots of, WWE, on and on and on. But it's a heavy, heavy, heavy indie weekend, so make sure you're heading out to your local indie show, especially here in Georgia, between Southern Honor, IWE, Anarchy, UWF. There's just tons of shows everywhere, man.
I'm going to tell you flat out, before you start bitching about what's on national television, go check out an indie show, then go bitching about what's on national television.
Agreed. And looking, if you're in Florida, Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama, follow the Rob Rod Report. Make sure you're following it. It's on YouTube. It's on Facebook. The Rob Rod Report. He's telling you where all the shows are in all those states, so you shouldn't be missing them.
Yep. Contributed more to independent wrestling than just about anybody I know.
I agree, man. But well, man, that's everything I've got for this week before we got out of here. You sure you don't have anything else?
I'm going to go ahead and start the holy shit chants right now. Holy shit, but that's all I got.
Well, what's the old saying, brother? If I've got nothing and you've got nothing, what time is it?
It's time to tap out.